The most evil human experiments. Gone wrong. 'Cause science. The monster study. What better way to start the video about people being evil than by talking about how humans can be actual horrible monsters sometimes? The monster study was an experiment of University of Iowa speech pathologist Wendell Johnson in 1939. He did this study on 22 orphaned children of all people to see the effects of positive and negative speech. What a way to do studies. Dr. Johnson didn't do it alone. He did it with the help of the Harley Quinn to his Joker, his graduate student Mary Tudor. What should we do today? I don't know. Be evil to kind and innocent people? In the name of science, let's go to Iowa Soldiers' Orphans Home in Davenport. Oh dang, soldiers' orphans. If being orphaned ain't enough, give them something worse to carry for the rest of their lives. The orphans they messed the lives with were divided in 4 groups. 2 groups spoke fluently, and 2 groups stuttered. Here's how it went. Don't worry about it, you're doing well. I'm gonna give you tips to avoid stuttering. You think that's nice? It's not. It's about to get hella worse. Well, this should be fine. We're not gonna do anything on them. We're semi-kind. That's nice, kid. You're really fluent. We have a poet over here. So here comes the worst part. You think you speak normally? You sound like this porky pig? Even if they were fluent speakers already good at speaking, it started to get worse after the negative speech therapy. They showed signs of actual stuttering, and even their behaviors changed. Norma Jean Pugh was a 5-year-old who spoke normally, but she became hesitant to speak after the therapy, which I consider not therapy at all, since according to the dictionary, therapy is a treatment, okay? A treatment intended to relieve or heal a disorder. There is no universe that this was healing or relieving. It made things a whole lot worse for the kids. Another one, Betty Romp, was a 9-year-old girl who refused to talk after the therapy and often covered her eyes. Nice going you got there, Wendell boy. A lot of the children had mental health issues for the rest of their lives. Self-conscious? Check. Hesitant to speak? Check. Nervous all the time? Ding, ding, ding. Check again. Oh, who do we have here? Mary Tudor felt sorry for the children, so she visited the orphanage after the study to reassure the kids that there was nothing wrong with them. Good effort, but it's like saying sorry to a broken plate. The damage was already done, dog. All for science. If you think the study was unethical, you're smart, because it was to the point that Wendell Johnson chose to not publish the results, as he was aware of how the scientific community would react to that. So all of that was for nothing. They went in there, messed up the lives of the children, got out, and nothing. That's evil. When articles by the San Jose Mercury News started to pop out here and there in 2002, it got national attention, and people were like, "You're a bad doctor. Why did you do those things to children?" or something. Iowa gave $925,000 to the 7 orphan children that Wendell Johnson emotionally left distraught, which they should, as it is the least they could do for the amount of emotional damage that the children got through their lives. And this is another way of putting generational trauma. Nice work, Wendell. Unit 731. There's evil, and then there's evil. This is neither of those two. This belongs to a league of its own. Geneva Conventions, get the heck out of here. You're not amended yet during this time, so sit down. Unit 731 was a facility made in 1936 in Manchuria, the northeastern part of China. It was led by General Shiro Ishii, and this unit was disguised as the Epidemic Prevention and Water Purification Department of the Kwantung Army. It's not any of those things. It was a place for biowarfare and chemical warfare research. Unit 731 did a lot of things to the Chinese citizens, their POWs or prisoners of war, and whoever they could catch. If they catch you, you'd be injected with diseases. It's not limited to flu or colds. In fact, the flu or the colds is not even the minimum of what they did. Don't worry, we will help you. We're just going to put this little stick inside your body. What is that? It's Tanju-jun. What's Tanju-jun? Anthrax. Lol. There are even other instances where they'd give you the plague, yes, the bubonic plague and cholera, to study how the disease progresses and affects a human. All that without one single hint of anesthesia, not because they don't have it, but because they don't want to. It clearly violates the 3rd article of the Geneva Conventions that requires everyone that were captured to still be treated like humans. But if you come to think of it, Unit 731 was earlier than 1949, so they're fine in a sense that they're not. If giving them diseases is not enough, the people in Unit 731 opened up the same people they gave diseases to see how it internally affects a person. Why? Because it's more accurate than an autopsy. What are you doing to me now? Time to cut you up. They would also amputate people just to study how a person would react to a blood loss. Evil. But it happened. Some of the diseases actually were sent out to the outside world using plague bombs and killed thousands of people. You know what? Let's do it this way. Tie this guy up. What now? Throw bombs. Oh my goodness! Camera. Lights, camera, dead. Because this ain't a Sony A7RV with a Canon RF 70 to 200mm lens. It's not that type of camera. This camera has a K instead of a C, and it was a group of secret laboratories made by the motherland Soviet Union to make and test poisons for assassinations back in the 1920s. Assassin's Creed who? The goal of these labs was to make poisons that were untraceable in autopsies, so it can be used to end everyone who they see as a threat to the government. Not to the Soviet, just the government. They made the camera when someone tried to assassinate their previous leader Vladimir Lenin with poison-coated bullets. Oh, so we're going to play that game? Poisons? Well, thanks for the information, assassins. Kamera was first called the Special Room, but was named Kamera eventually, meaning the chamber when Stalin took over. See, poisons are bitter. Not that I've been poisoned, but it's bitter so naturally, people would spit it out the moment the ultra-bitter taste of poison kicks in their tongues. So they made tasteless and odorless poisons in Kamera. What better way to know if it works or not than by giving them to humans, specifically prisoners? Can it kill? Well, test it to humans. Do they die? No. But do they suffer from it? Yes? Good. Then let's make it more deadly. It's not assassination if they live. Just like how Trump got shot in his Pennsylvania rally wasn't an assassination. It was an attempt, yes, but he wasn't assassinated. There was a guy called Grigory Marinovsky back then, and he was a biochemist who was in charge of Kamera in the 1930s and 1940s. He tested things like cyanide, mustard gas, ricin, and thallium, all tasteless and odorless, on prisoners to know if they were deadly and how much should be put for the poison to be deadly. Well, it's safe to say that they were successful with their studies because a lot of the prisoners were left for dead and died. They used these poisons to kill Nikolai Koklov, a KGB defector. Although they failed to kill him because Koklov survived their thallium poisoning method in Frankfurt back in 1957. They succeeded with the assassination of Georgy Markov, though. Markov was a Bulgarian anti-KGB writer, and they killed him in London in 1978 using a pellet with ricin, and it was delivered using the tip of an umbrella while waiting for a bus. Quaker Oats radioactive cereal experiments. You probably didn't expect Quaker Oats to be involved in something evil apart from capitalism. Surprise, people! They did this. It was sometime in the 1940s to 50s when the scientific guys became more enlightened than Isaac Newton, as if an atom bomb fell on their heads rather than an apple. Maybe 2 atom bombs. Given the fact that this was World War II, we understand, but we do not forgive these evil things. Researchers from MIT and Harvard explored the possible good things that nuclear things can bring to people. We need to think of the possible outcomes nukes can make to humans. We should test it to humans. We might have a super soldier serum without knowing it. Fellow humans, Captain America is fictional, you stupid asses. This is where Quaker Oats steps up into play. They were threatened of other rising cereal brands like Cream of Wheat and Quaker wanted to prove that they were the super alpha mega race of cereals, like how Hitler was with the Aryans. To do this, Quaker teamed up with MIT and Harvard to use radioactive markers to track how Quaker Oats' nutrients travel in the body. They did the experiment to about 100 children from Fernald State School in Waltham, Massachusetts, and the researchers called these guinea pigs the members of the Fernald Science Club. Here you go, children, eat these as a part of our nutritional study to make you a lot healthier. Enjoy! Evil number 1, they gave the students oatmeal and milk with radioactive calcium and iron. The radioactive things were used so that the researchers knew how it would be absorbed by the children's bodies. Evil number 2, they conducted the experiments to mentally disabled children who didn't know 2 bits about what the actual agenda was, nor did the parents. They thought it was a study with good cause. Look at this guy right here. He's Robert S. Harris, and he was the primary researcher of the study, also known as Evil number 3. He made fools out of the entire school by falsely assuring the superintendent of the school that the radioactive things in the food were safe for children, which was the biggest red flag of all. Children, food, and radioactive are not the right combination of words for something to be considered safe. Over the course of the study, the children's spleens were getting radiation levels equal to someone getting multiple chest x-rays in a short amount of time. At the end of the day, researchers only want results because the end justifies the means for them, probably as Quaker was right. Their oatmeal was the better cereal, but at the cost of mentally challenged children's health. Good going, Quaker. In the early 90s, Scott Allen of Boston Globe covered this news in his expose, and everyone was livid about what Scott told in his articles. So in 1998, former students of Fernald got $1.85 million in settlement, and it was split among 30 victims. 'Cause lives have prices, you know? Aversion project. Hey, welcome to South Africa. Good news, you're a soldier in the apartheid era. Bad news, you're gay in the mid to late 1900s where homosexuality is a disease and when pride marches were a way of protesting that being whatever you identify as is not a disease. I mean, pride marches still are protests today, but it was 100% a protest back then, rather than something that's slightly celebrated for a month that companies can jump on the bandwagon to sell more things. So one day, you're beating the crap out of minorities in South Africa, but when the night came, you were taken by your superiors who saw your sexual orientation. We found out that you're homosexual. Time to march the pride out of you. We only take he and she as pronouns here. So yeah, see you later, Zier. Being a homosexual is something that needs therapy back in that type of time, and that's exactly what Dr. Aubrey Levin, a psychiatrist in the South African Defense Force, did. The Rainbow Soldiers were shown photos of naked men to make them hard, and then give them electric shocks when they get hard. This is to make their thinking that being gay is painful, and if you're a man, you should be hard on a woman, not Adam on Adam. That's exactly the next step. Show them Playboy models so they could be aroused with the women. If you're as tough as your balls with the electricity, you'll be sent to the next step. Chemical castration. You'll be injected with hormones to reduce your sex drive. A famous victim of this chemical castration was Gene Erasmus, not the tennis player, the gay soldier. He suffered from depression and other mental health issues after this, so he documented everything that he went through under Aubrey Levin piece by piece and shared it to human rights organizations before committing suicide. And if you're still gay from all of the atrocities that Aubrey Levin did, they would sarcastically and horribly grant your wish to like men. Again, for this time, the common belief was a man was for a woman, and vice versa. That's why the SADF did a forced gender reassignment surgery for these soldiers, because they believed that the soldiers weren't yet cured. Between 1969 to 1987, about 900 soldiers were forced to undergo the sex change operations, with some of the soldiers being as young as 16. Of course, these were done with zero consent, as if the SADF gives a damn about it. A lot of these soldiers were left with incomplete procedures, so now the soldiers were genitally half the man that they were. That had some side effects like infections, peeing problems, inability to have sex, hormonal imbalance, and a ton of mental health issues. A lot of these soldiers were given new identities, and they got discharged from the military with the strongest advice to cut ties with whoever they knew before, because a soldier could initially be called James Charles, but now he's called Carl Malone. Used to be gay, now is man as a pedophilic former NBA player or something like that. Only bits and pieces of these experiments got leaked during the apartheid era because the security was airtight at Ward 22, where most of these were done. And like any other secret, it's bound to emerge from the shadows and emerge from the shadows it did when reports of deaths during the surgeries and suicides after the operations started to pop up. Trust me, they're freaking volunteers. They wanted to do the procedure, so we did it? Man, shut up and sit down because we all know that wasn't the case. You were just plainly evil, blinded by the social construct that the rainbow flag was something that needed cure. The survivors and tons of human rights organizations even opposed that statement. So sit down, Aubrey, and let your evil acts be known, cause you're more evil than any Eminem lyric ever. Project 4.1. First and foremost, rest in peace to SpongeBob for this. Project 4.1 was another side mission of the US government from their actual task, which was Operation Castle back in 1954. Castle Bravo was a part of this, and this was the first step on doing Project 4.1. 'Cause, well, this was done in the Marshall Islands, and it was a series of thermonuclear tests to prove to Soviet Russia that the throne of whoever has the most powerful weapons in the world belongs to the US of A. This series of tests were done in Bikini Atoll, which was the inspiration for Bikini Bottom. The Castle Bravo test made an explosion of 15 freaking megatons of force. To put that in comparison, if you combine the power of Little Boy and Fat Man, the two Oppenheimer babies that were dropped in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, you'd have to multiply that power by 417 times to get 15 megatons. That's how powerful it was, so you know that Mr. Krabs ain't saving any of that money. Castle Bravo finished off Stephen Hillenburg's creations, but it did more. See, Marshall Islands in 1954 was the home of trees, wildlife, and 11,000 people. So yeah, did we manage to evacuate everyone? Ooh. We were evacuating people? You didn't plan to evacuate people? Well, too late now, but we need to think of a way to make these people about to die a plus. Okay? Number 1, you're a monster. Number 2, we can probably test them out. Since we don't have any more Japanese at hand to test things on, and the United Nations probably won't be happy about it if we landed another one straight to Japan for testing, let's just do it to the people here. You're a genius, Desmond Doss. My name's not Desmond Doss. Shut up, you're a genius. We'll test the fallout on these people, so let it drop. And the Marshallese were exposed to that booming Castle Bravo. Just like what happened to the people in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, they got beta and gamma radiation from the fallout, but a bigger version of it. It wasn't even a blink of an eye yet after Bravo exploded, and the residents already got acute radiation sickness. They vomited, they pooped uncontrollably, their hairs fell out, their skins were burnt like Wagyu and a lot of lesions. All at once. All at freaking once. And here came the US government making it a plus. The Project 4.1. We're going to check out what happened to you. We intended to evacuate you before the drop, but honestly, we kinda just forgot about y'all since we were too focused on beating the USSR. So, yeah. You can't get away from this. I think we're not supposed to tell them that. No? Well then, take this, Marshallese. Days and weeks went by after the tests. The Marshallese who didn't have immediate effects on their bodies eventually got those. Hair loss, skin burns were just a few of them, because the more pressing concern was that cancer rates, specifically the thyroid one, increased for the people of Marshall Islands. A whole bunch of women suffered miscarriages that Marilyn Monroe would be shocked too. If you were a child born at that time, you're luckily unlucky. Being born is the lucky part. The unlucky part is that you'd have to deal with developmental issues, growth abnormalities, together with the fact that the Marshallese people live on minimum maintenance for the rest of your life. That, I think, is heavier than the luck. But hey, you were born, that's all that matters. And now, on another episode of Doing Something Good After Doing Something Bad, only to do something bad again to the same people you did good after doing something bad to them, we have the US military doing damage control after the Castle Bravo test and evacuated the Rongelapese and other affected people of the Marshall Islands. Something good. Oh no, what is this? They're returning the people they evacuated just 3 years after, even if the place is still radioactive? Oh no! Even now, some parts of the Marshall Islands are unlivable because of that same radiation in the 50s. Oh no! And we got the US government providing some compensation for the Marshallese people, but it's not enough. $150 million was given to the Marshall Islands, and they also got political independence. But that's US basically saying, sorry for making your place unlivable, but you're gonna have to deal with it because you're now independent. Let's see what the US does after this. None! They did nothing! Little Albert Experiment. This experiment was done by John B. Watson and his student Rosalie Rayner with the aim to find out if classical conditioning works on humans. Classical conditioning is the way of learning found by Ivan Pavlov with his dogs. Very well, dogs are animals, and so are humans. So let's study humans and give them the same treatment we give animals when we do studies. Great, just great. So they got a literal infant for this study. What's the name of this little guinea pig we got right here? I heard his name is Douglas Merritt. He's the son of that wet nurse, Arvilla. Douglas, you're going to change the world, but I meant Douglas MacArthur and not you. Do me a favor, Rosalie. Call him something else to hide his real name. I was thinking of John Doe. Nope. Jane Doe. He's a boy, Rosalie. Think. Adolf? Benito? Joseph? I'm gonna pretend I didn't just hear you list names of future dictators for the baby. Let's just call him Albert, 'cause Einstein. Let's make him look smart at least. Sounds good to me. Arvilla worked at the Harriet Lane Home for Invalid Children, which is another way to call Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, and the two doctors chose her son Douglas because he looked normal. I guess having a normal baby was hard to come by in the 1920s. Baby Albert was shown different things: a white rat, a rabbit, a monkey, masks, and burning newspapers. They were new to him and nothing was worth crying for, so these things didn't scare him. Only then did the two researchers start the conditioning. Hey Albert, here's a rat. Well, that should make baby Albert scared. Of course he'll cry. The researchers proved they were evil for science when they continued showing Albert the white rat, then followed with a eventually, Albert cries at the sight of the rat without needing to bang the loud ass hammer to a metal bar. Success for science and John Watson. They proved that the ways to condition dogs can get similar results when conditioning a human. But baby Albert didn't only get scared of rats, he's now afraid of furries too. Any animal with fur, he's gonna cry to. I mean, even I would be frightened going to a room filled with this. To make things worse, the researchers didn't try to remove Albert's fear of furries, nor did they inform the mother of what the effects will be. W for science. It turned out that baby Albert wasn't quote-unquote normal after all, since he died at the age of 6 from hydrocephalus that he most likely had from birth. L for Watson. If I were a scientist, I'd come up to meet you, tell you, I'm sorry, you don't know how lovely you are.